Throughout the course of Destiny Year 1, players both casual and hardcore have taken part in quite the journey. From Destiny's awesome socially driven experience, we have not simply created 3-member and 6-member fire teams to complete weekly heroic strikes, weekly nightfall strikes, various bounties, crucible matches, and raids, but many of us have created real-world friendships which extend outside Destiny as a game. Over this first year, our fire teams have grown in power and in ability, just as those real-world friendships have grown as well. For each and every player of Destiny, we have taken our guardians through a never-ending quest for loot. Fire teams of friends and total strangers have continuously banded together in the shared quest to progress their guardians and grow in power. From the various activities to keep players busy, a multitude of loot such as armor and weapons, Destiny's buttery smooth and highly addictive gunplay, and its fantastic social aspect, not to mention the game's melding of first-person shooter mechanics, RPG and MMO type elements, the game's awesome visuals and audio, well, there are many aspects of Destiny which Bungie has nailed. These are the aspects, just a few of them actually, of which Destiny has actually nailed. These are elements which has made the game as addictive as it is unique, keeping fans coming back day in and day out for more. For the things that Destiny delivers in a positive aspect, this past year of Destiny has not been without its fair share of negatives. This is where Destiny actually faltered. Oddly, the deep story elements of Destiny were minutely explained in what many players feel is a rather underwhelming story campaign. This is confusing since the actual Destiny lore, which is meticulously detailed in the external component for the game's story known as the Grimoire, is extremely vague during the actual game. Too many questions with barely any real clarity or explanations left players rather confused as to what was really going on and why they were doing what they were doing in-game. Lackluster story campaign aside, there were a few other elements which left players either walking away from Destiny completely or simply left continuing to scratch their heads. Eventually, each player would seem to hit the same wall. Sure, there were activities to do both daily and weekly. There was still loads of gear to obtain and collect. There were new friends to be made. However, the repetition-heavy grind associated with the actual Destiny content itself became a more dragged-out bore than an amazing gaming experience. This repetition, coupled with a rather weak leveling system for players' characters, a fairly selfish reward system which left many players hung out to dry upon the actual completion of the game's various activities, and 2 DLC expansions which, although both quote-unquote good, still failed to truly deliver elements that players have been patiently waiting for. All of this seemed to be bringing this new franchise into a rather uncertain future. For die-hard fans of Destiny, things had to change. Enter Destiny Year 2 and the release of the game's biggest expansion yet, known as Destiny: The Taken King. With the epic, intensely paced opening cinematic, it became quite clear right from the start that players had just entered a totally fresh and more meaningful start to Destiny Year 2, and to the actual Destiny experience. Upon the player's character stepping foot on Phobos, the dramatic display of mayhem unfolding as players progressed onward to their first mission objective was, for me personally, a gaming moment I will never forget. Sure, many games have featured intense opening sequences to display a dire event taking place, but for the particular one taking place during this introduction mission for Destiny: The Taken King, there was that Bungie magic and polish which just really seemed to immerse me in ways I have yet to experience in most games I've played. It wasn't at all because it was something never done before. It wasn't the most epic opening sequence of all time, as a matter of fact. What it was, however, was an epic level of chaos and immersion never really seen or experienced in Destiny up to this point. That's what made it so immersive, and that's what impacted me personally. Aside from the opening gameplay-based scenario used to set the tone of the actual Taken King story campaign, the overall presentation of Destiny as a whole has undergone a huge change. For starters, players will almost instantly notice and appreciate the attention Bungie has paid to the various non-player characters encountered in-game. Looking back on the original vanilla Destiny, players were introduced to a group of characters which each looked interesting and unique, yet unfortunately, each of these characters was only mildly developed, lacking any type of true personality and character. There was nothing in-game showing any type of interactions between these characters, which, in the end, left them all lifeless, dull, and somewhat irrelevant. With the release of Destiny's first paid DLC expansion titled The Dark Below, players were treated to a slight improvement to these characters, yet for the most part, they were all still rather lifeless and stale. It wasn't until the release of Destiny's second paid DLC expansion titled The House of Wolves where players would finally start to see a much deeper level of NPC personality. Right from the game's campaign opening cinematic in The Taken King, players are introduced to a very well done introduction to the actual story of the Taken King storyline. While this opening cinematic is stunning, it isn't until the player starts the actual first story campaign mission titled The Coming War where the game actually shows its strengths. It is throughout this first mission where players truly experience the true vision and personality of the various NPCs encountered in-game. It is the clever in-game dialogue between the various NPCs such as Zavala, Eris, Ikora Rey, Cade 6, and your Ghost, which are continuously prevalent throughout the course of the entire story campaign and game. It doesn't stop with just the end of the campaign. This goes on through all of the individual quests that you will eventually get in the game. It's completely revamped, and I love it. Why this matters so much is because players now get to see and experience the real relationships between these various characters, and the clashing of personalities between the group, and the first real look at the differing priorities and agendas from one character to the next. It is nice to see that although Cade 6, Ikora Rey, Commander Zavala, and Eris Morn, and your Ghost, are all united in their joint war against the darkness, there is still a type of shared tension between the group that we see for the first time, and this gives the overall impression that neither one in the group is truly in charge. As for the player's Ghost, now revoiced by famed voice actor Nolan North, who is best known for his reprising role as Nathan Drake in the Uncharted series, the dialogue and personality given to your guardian companion, known as the Ghost, throughout the course of the game is more entertaining and carries more personality of its own. At first, I wasn't too certain whether I would truly ever accept the replacement of Peter Dinklage as the voice of the Ghost, yet, personally, the replacement of him via Nolan North has almost immediately grown on me, and I personally like this change more and more the more I play and the more I hear it. With the introduction of deeper developed personalities relating to the game's supporting cast of characters, the visuals in Destiny have also received some nice new polish. While Destiny's visual look retains its unique and slightly cartoonish art style, the level of environment details such as object textures, lighting effects, shadows, moisture, dust, bloom effects, and other graphical details seem to pop much more when seeing them on screen. Destiny's look and overall art style has always been fantastic, yet it looks even nicer now, which in the end immerses players in the game much more than before. The lighting transitions from area to area, especially aboard Oryx's Dreadnought, are, in my opinion, some of the most visually appealing graphic detailing I have personally ever experienced in a video game to date. Somehow, even through the game's environmental details, Bungie has managed to not only set their desired mood for players to experience in the game world, they have also done so in a way in which the detail put into the actual environments themselves seem to tell a story all their own. You can actually see the story of what may have happened in certain environments just by looking around at stuff in the environments itself. That attention to detail, that attention to actually being able to set that kind of a mood for players to experience. Again, there are very few games that can do that, and I give Bungie props for doing it. Destiny's visuals simply look cleaner, sharper, and nicer than ever before. And no matter where in the game players find themselves adventuring, I don't think anyone can deny the fact that every single area continuously, I emphasize continuously, continues to have its own unique look and feel to it, and it's this type of detail which sets Destiny apart from any other game. As if these graphical touch-ups weren't enough, the game's overall audio quality has been tweaked as well. From the game's awesome musical score, character dialogue, environmental sounds, weapon sounds, explosion sounds, there is no denying that Destiny's audio is hands down some of the best out there. Listening to this game with a high quality set of surround sound headphones is highly, highly recommended. Yo, honestly, your ears will thank you for this, because this game's audio is insane. It's insane. So yeah, go grab a good pair of headphones, because you will definitely love this shit. With the start of Destiny Year 2, Bungie definitely took community feedback into account while crafting the Taken King. Not only do we have a much needed increase to our overall vault storage space, even though I don't think we'll ever have enough, players also received a more intuitive, streamlined inventory system. The new quest screen allows players to get detailed information regarding any of their current quests, and is always there for players to use whenever, wherever they want. Players can now carry up to 16 various bounties at a time, and upon completion of these bounties, each of them can be turned in directly from the quest screen. No more repetitive trips back and forth to the tower just to turn in completed bounties. This is probably one of the most useful things that Bungie has added to Destiny. I use this constantly. To add to the quests and bounties, players can now press the designated controller button and track up to 4 quests, bounties, or a mix of the two. At any point, no matter where players are located in the game, they can activate a tracking list which will pop up on the bottom corner of their screen. This allows players to instantly check progress while playing, which I find personally, I'm using this all the time. This is just a really good way for me to know how far I am with particular bounties. And I love this. I love this integrated into the game. I'm very glad that Bungie listened and was like, look, we need to do something to let players know, where exactly they are in a particular quest as far as completion or a particular bounty. It's just a useful tool. In closing, there is just so many new additions and improvements introduced into Destiny Year 2 in the form of the Taken King that this actual review could easily last 1 or 2 full hours in order to discuss them all. With its fantastic story campaign, weapon and armor infusion system, a long list of new armor pieces, bunch of new exotic weapons, legendary weapons, shaders, emblems, quests, patrol missions, emotes, 3 new subclasses, legendary marks, faction allegiances, the Court of Oryx public events, Oryx's Dreadnought, new strikes and different variations of all the Year 1 strikes, new Crucible game modes and maps, exotic weapon quests, new ships, new sparrows, new ghost shells, a fantastic new raid, and many other additions to Destiny as a whole. There are more than enough reasons for Year 1 players to return, and an even bigger list of reasons for new players to jump into Destiny. Naturally, Destiny itself is still not perfect as a game. There are still certain areas that need tweaking and improvement. However, the direction which Bungie is taking Destiny into Year 2 has totally elevated my faith in the game's future. Gamers owe it to themselves to give Destiny a second chance, because it is a much, much better and more refined gaming experience. There simply is no other game quite like Destiny. Its social aspect and play mechanics cannot be beat, and I highly recommend the Taken King to anyone looking for a console shooter with just the right mix of MMO RPG elements. The amount of improvements made to Destiny, well, honestly, pretty much seems like overnight. That's how drastic the changes came to the game in such a small amount of time. On top of that, it's proof to Bungie's commitment to fans and to the franchise as a whole. And Destiny's future, to me, looks extremely bright, and I cannot wait to experience whatever is next. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Destiny Guardian Outpost.